Our first speaker for today's event is Professor Dr. Tan Soon Guan, Editor-in-Chief, Botanical Journals of Tropical Agriculture Science, UPM. Tan Soon Guan is Professor in the Department of Cell and Molecular Biology, Faculty of Biotechnology and Biomolecular Science, University Putra, Malaysia, since 1995. He was first appointed as the Editor-in-Chief of the Botanical Journals of Tropical Agriculture Science in 1997 and reappointed in 2006 till the present. Today, Professor Dr. Tan Soon Guan will share his knowledge on scholarly publishing. Professor Dr. Tan Soon Guan, the floor is now yours.
Hi, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I was late because yesterday I got a program that says the session starts at 9:30. So I was opening up. Now, as a follow-up to what Anu said, let me share with you a real-life experience. I had a student, Dr. Iman. His aim of publication is in good journals. As a result, his graduation was delayed. Because when you send the journals, Q1 and Q2, the review process takes time. They are used for more leisurely pace of reviewing papers. They are not like the predatory publishers where you send today, tomorrow you get a response. Sometimes. As long as you pay, they will publish. With Q1, Q2 journals, the review process takes time because the reviewers need time to go through it. And if you said you cannot graduate without the two papers, then of course, sometimes it's not possible. You cannot annoy reviewers and editors by keep asking what has happened to your submission. Sometimes if you do that, the editor gets so fed up, they just reject it straight away. Right? They keep bugging it, and if the journals keep bugging the reviewers, then the reviewer says, stop it! You're not even paying me, why must I hurry you so much? If you want me to do a good review, you need to give me time. So our graduate schools really have to rethink about these things. And if you want students to publish in Q1 and Q2 journals, there's no two ways about it. Otherwise, like in the case of Dr. Iman, his graduation was delayed. Of course he got his papers in Q1 and Q2 journals, but his graduation was delayed. So luckily he was a lecturer in his own university, so that doesn't jeopardize his income and so on. But we need to pray for him because he's in the Kurdish region of Iraq, and as you know, so despite all these things, his faith is still not finished. So anyway, that's just a digression. Now, as far as botanical journals are concerned, I think we are not Q1, Q2, and therefore, according to what Dr. Marissa you should even look at us. Now, is that what we want? So anyway, I have to say that. Alright, so that's the title, Scholarly Publication. Since we are the sponsors, you have to sit through our advertisement. Okay, vision and so on. Scope, that's what my talks are about. And to tell you the truth, in the year 1999, we were invited by Thomson ISIS to be considered. We were invited to be listed on Thomson current contents at that time. Unfortunately, in the year 2000, university administration changed and support for botanical journals decreased, and therefore we became not on time. And you know what that means, and that is one of the main criteria for citation indexing in either Scopus or Thomson ISIS. At that time it was not Thomson ISIS, it was at the ISI. So that's the reason. why we are not cited in organizations for the last 15 years. Had our journal continued to receive support from the university administration, at that time we would have been listed way back a year ago. So now we are struggling to get this. Okay. So that's the outline. Okay. We want to present high quality research to the world. We do everything in book form. Our review process is non-offensive. We try to do the best. And we want, of course, now to get back onto Thomsonitis. This time we have to apply instead of being invited. And for that, we have to be timely and we have to be visible. And there's no two ways about it. Thomsonitis latest last feedback on why they cannot list us was because our bank issues were then in JPEG format, which is not visible. So we have to convert everything to PDF format in order to fulfill the requirement. And until today, I think we have not achieved that. Although we are 35 years. And we are listed in other things, Corpus, Thomsonitis through Biasis and CAB, which is normally a prelude to being on the web of knowledge. And we were well on the way to there until our server crashed. Has that been fixed yet? No. Okay, so forget about Thomsonitis for the next 2 years. Perhaps my successors will have got a lot. DOAJ, EBSCO, Agricola, Google Scholar, ISC is Learning Citation Index. My AIS, the Malaysian Citation Index, the last one. This is our initiative structure. You see, we are open board. We are not a predatory publisher. In fact, we don't charge you cost us money to publish a paper. But we were under the CPI. Chair, and then we have a journal working committee, and we have editorial board for each of our journals. This only shows the 3 original Botanica journals. Our stable have now increased to 9. These are still the original 3. And it comes from the word, people ask, what is Botania? Actually, it comes from the Malay word Botania, because we were University Botania Malaysia. The Agriculture University of Malaysia for almost 100 years. In fact, if you look at it, our history way back. Although we became, after school, we became college and later on university, and these are the chief editors during those times. There's a gap between 2000 and 2006 because of this. Right? So it started way back in 1978, but in 1992 it became 3 journals. In 2007 it was revived after somnambulating from 2012 to 2006. It was then revamped and we relaunched the 3 original journals essentially. And by 2012 we were on time and we were timely. And we were well on the way to ISI citation listing. We managed to recite these corpus. But again, as I said, because of our low visibility of our back issues, we are still not on the ISI. Ethics is a big issue. There are speakers who go around telling people, you want your papers to be published, please submit your manuscript to as many journals as possible, so that at least one of them will accept your paper. That is totally untrue. Because you are told you must publish 2 papers in order to get your PhD degree, 1 for your master's degree. Therefore, you submit your paper to many journals, and at least one will pick it up. That is unethical, and because your field of study is so narrow, it is very likely that the same reviewer will get the same paper from you, but from two different journals. And if this were the case, then the reviewer will have no choice but to inform both the chief editors of multiple submission and the chief editors, if they themselves are ethical, will reject the paper for both. That there are problems in authorship. Now, if you are listed as a co-author, you are fully responsible for the content. As Amir said, if you are not happy with the paper, please, or if you do not have time to check the paper, please withdraw your name from being the co-author. Otherwise, if anything happens, you are fully responsible. It is often the case that after the event, people start saying, in fact, my name was put there without my knowledge. But had the paper won a Nobel Prize, would they say that? And this is, it happened to me. We had one paper that was plagiarized by somebody else, and when we make a complaint and the journal put out a retraction and so on, some of the co-authors write us up, send us letters saying they are innocent because the name was there without their knowledge. So please make sure if you want to put somebody's name on your paper, make sure you have permission from that person. Because these things has even happened to me. So some of my postgrad students, when they go back home, will be something, and when the paper came out, fortunately, it wasn't in a very high impact factor journal paper, but it was full of English language errors, which embarrassed me to no end. But please, if you want to put people's name on the paper, make sure you get their permission, give them a copy of the manuscript, let them go through it, and if they said, okay, fine, then you proceed. If they don't say, okay, fine, then you delete the name. Right? That's ethics. Copyright also. UPM wants to copyright to your thesis, but when it comes to publishing papers, I don't think the university will make us sue you. In fact, the university encourage you, otherwise you cannot graduate anyway. But if you turn it into a book, then copyright issues come on. We take plagiarism very seriously because we have all experience of work being plagiarized. So we check every submission that we get to turn it in before it goes out to the review. Okay, and we have a code of ethics. I think the university used this as a basis of the code of ethics. In 2010, we came up with this. Because of all these cases of plagiarism and outright fraud, outright data fraud. So easy to manufacture data with all the software. Okay, we have won awards and so on for our journal. JTAS, that's the one that I'm chief director of. Agriculture Science. We are an agriculture university, so I presume most of your work can be published here. Then we also have Science and Technology, which caters mainly for engineering, and physics and chemistry, and the hard sciences. Whereas JTAS is mainly on, we interpret biology in the broader sense, and agriculture science in the broader sense, which includes basic work as well. But this is for the physical sciences. And because we are a comprehensive university, we also have social science and humanities. And for that, we have this journal of social science and humanities to cater for governments. Now, since last year, we have enlarged the Britannica stable of journals to include some other faculty and society-based journals that are based in UPM. This is the International Food Research Journal, which is published 6 times a year, based in our food science faculty. And Mathematical Science, published by ISPAM, Institute of Mathematical Research. research based in the institute. We have a medical faculty, so we have Malaysian Journal of Medicine and Health Sciences. Asian Fisheries Journal is an old journal published by the Asian Fisheries Society. When they heard that we can provide them access to Scholar One submission system, they became interested to be part of the Untitled Chapter. So we have signed an MOU with them. Then we have International Journal of Economics and Management. And we also have a faculty of design. Architecture. So we have an International Journal on Sustainable Tropical Design Research and Practice. Located for this faculty. So these are some of the scope of our journals. Data, as I said, biology and agricultural sciences in the broadest. Because we feel basic sciences are just as important for applied sciences. Science and technology, includes environmental sciences, nanotech, the hot topic, safety and emergency management, engineering, design, computers, chemistry, humanities, and broader science. So you need not pay good money to predatory journals to have your papers published. And graduate school still recognizes publication in botanical journals as part of your graduation requirement. So you don't have to pay 10,000 ringgit to get your paper published. I was being an old timer, it pains me to have to pay to publish them. I always tell my students, send to the traditional journals even though the impact factors are low. For example, the Journal of Genetics was founded by William Bateson more than 100 years ago. Its impact factor is only about 1. But it's an old traditional journal founded in Cambridge University, and which most of us who grew up in the days when KPI wasn't such a big issue, we all knew about this journal. So I still encourage my students to publish in this old journal, even though its impact factor is only 1. So, and it's free. That means the reader pays, not the author. In fact, I just got a message from one journal where somebody whom I co-supervised got the paper published, and the cost of publication was 18,000 Swiss franc, and I worked it out and say 6,000 ringgit. So it's a journal of molecule, pretty high impact factor. But you see, as a taxpayer and as an old timer, it pains me to pay all this stuff. I have students who have published in PLOS group of journals and so on. And the reason why I said if you want to go for paid journal, PLOS 1 is still the cheapest. It's about 3,000. But the rest are astronomical. And it pains you. So botanical journals are free. Although we are not Q1. And we are not in ISI either. We are Scopus. But anyway, as long as graduate school recognize it, since it is our own journal, I hope our management is good. In fact, UKM and USM, they recognize their own journal, like Science Malaysia. And because of support from the university, they got into impact factor as well. Because they have time, they are timely, all the back issues are in PDF format, they are visible, and the lectures are published because the university recognizes them. That's the way we do. If you are serious about having your own journal, recognize worldwide. Of course, we try to diversify our editorial board members, and this is Dr. Richard Corbett, Biological Conservation Editor-in-Chief. He's currently based in China. So, although he's an English, he used the word NUS as well. So, peer review, our process is rigid. As far as JTAS is concerned, we normally send with 3 reviewers. If 2 says yes, we accept. If 2 says no, we reject. If 1 says yes, 1 says no, then we make sure that all 3 reviews are retained. If the reviewers don't respond by a certain time, of course we'll change reviewers, and that can cause delay. And of course, we try not to annoy the reviewers. In fact, we give them a slight incentive in monetary terms to encourage them to complete the review on time. The reason why we had to do it was, I was noticing at one time, the animal-based people are really very fast. The plant-based people were very, very slow. And then I realized it's because our local national journal, I should have used the word local, our national journals like the Oil Palm Journal, Oil Palm Research, and the Mandi Journal, they all pay their plant-based reviewers. So plant-based reviewers, when they get papers from Oil Palm Journal, Botanica, of course they review Oil Palm Journal. So it's a case of you can't beat them, you have to join them. It's another review. It's like total. Besides that, we also publish in reviewers. Although most international journals don't give any financial incentive. But we have to follow the culture. Selection of reviewers, we try to find experts in the field. We have an editorial board with different expertise. Like my expertise is in molecular population genetics. I wouldn't know if you are doing astrobiology, for example. You probably have an EV member who does astrobiology to find it, right? Rating of quality system by the reviewer, not by the company. He keeps all the record. People like me, I can't keep record. I can't even remember when I'm going to choose this. So record keeping is terrible. Despite all my ISO. ISO to CD and research is an oxymoron. If you already know what you can research, you can get one bother to do research. Yeah, so right now, this is based on fudge data. Good. Timeliness. You must be on time. You say, you declare this issue will come up 4 times a year. And if you meet the time, fine. Scopus and ISI will be happy with you. If you don't, then you're in danger. Now I think you're on endangered list. So that's something to say. And of course, if you want to have impact factor, you must say timely. Because impact factor have a time factor, 2-year period. In fact, most journals now, let's say, I'm not sure whether it's the correct word, they cheat by as soon as the paper is accepted, it gets online. I was very impressed. You find the paper I was telling you about, although the review process took a long time, more than a year, but the moment it was accepted, it appears online within 1 week. And the same thing with molecular biology report, the second paper was in molecular biology reports, which was in Q2, now began Q3. You see, this Q2, Q3, and Q4, and so on, they keep changing every year. When you submit the paper, it was in Q2. Now, then it became Q3. So, you cannot blame the student for letting try. And the same thing, another incident, we submitted a paper to a Q1 journal in virology, and it was rejected by that journal. We resubmitted to another journal, which was in Q3, and it was accepted. And this year we found out that the original Q1 journal now became Q3, and the Q3 journal has now become Q1. So all these new things, they are not static. You see, impact factors and so on, they are not static, they change. So the Q1 journal is not forever in Q1, and the Q3 journal is not forever in Q3. It changes with time, yearly. And of course, in order to be Q, because of copyright reason, you must be listed in Web of Knowledge under Thomson ISIS. Scopus, although they may have similarity to Q1, Q2, and whatever in their listing system, but they cannot call it Q1, Q2, Q3. Otherwise, they'll be sued by Thomson ISIS. And not all agriculture-based journals are in Thomson ISIS. In fact, Thomson ISIS comes from a very poor record in the agricultural sciences. They are very good in the medical sciences and biomedical sciences. I know it because in the past I had worked on human genetics, and my H values in Thomson ISIS is different from my H values in Scopus. And some of the journals that are highly cited in the Thomson-ISIS list is not highly cited in the Scopus list. So, depends on your field, again, all these cues and so on. So I know, because I had papers in both fields, and those that are human, medical sort of thing, are highly cited in the Thomson list, but not in the Scopus list, and vice versa. So again, you really have to look at the whole picture and not say Thomson, ISIS, ISI only, which unfortunately seem to be the snuff ISI list now. Everybody talks about ISI only. You forget that there's Scopus similar values too, even for Qs. So, what do you want to use? Which one you want to use? Depends on your field of specialty. UPM is an agriculture-based university. Logically, you should go for Scopus. UM is a medical university, more medical inclined. Therefore, they should go for Thomson ISIS. So that's maybe the engineering university based, some era or whatever it is. So you have to be careful. But whatever it is, all this thing, you must see time. And okay, this is the around time. You can submission and publication. Of course, we want to be as fast as possible in our manuscript processing. But again, it depends on the reviewers. We cannot. You either give your report now, or we terminate you. So I terminate, so I don't do anything. In fact, I'm doing you a favor. You terminate me, so. This was true in 2012. But the lag time, yes, it's still maintaining the lag time. This is the time that it takes for serial processing. I might say that slight incentives, at least for the clients. These are number of submissions that we get over the years, from 2010 to 2014. 2014 figures is under October 2014. But this is currently affected by the breakdown in the server. Our JTAS have gone online submission. And because our online system is now no longer working, for how long I do not know. But because of that, this number cannot use the online submission system. I have to be very careful. But otherwise, it's okay, this is acceptance rate. So we have a reduction rate of about 40%. So online submission, Scholar 1, we thought it has been working fine from 2011 onwards, 2012. Now we have a slight glitch. In fact, it was one of our strategies to get into the Thomson. And it's also good, very fast. You do everything online. The reviewers review online, editors and so on. They suggest reviews. Everything is done online. It's in fact very fast. In fact, I'm a surveyor, so I'm an editorial board of quite a number of local as well as national, international journals. And most of them now use online submissions. It's very fun. The only slow thing is our internet speed in UPM. Okay, so we invite you to submit papers to us, botanical journals. They are the hallmark journal for further inquiries. The Naya Institute. It's a resource that we have to support you. Alright, more information from here. So, thanks very much. I'm not sure how much time I've given now since the timetable seems to have changed. Okay, so thanks very much. Any questions? Now's the time to ask if you have any questions. Remember, we are here to serve you. Yes, please.
9, actually you show the rate of publications per Botanica. And you see that it is declining up to 2011. There was a gap and nothing between 2012 and 2030. As you mentioned, maybe the period of being on the review makes the declining of the publication. Is it possible to decrease? What is the problem? That you cannot reduce
the publication time. Okay, I think we have two major problems.
Number one, we have not started uploading full papers as soon as it's accepted. Right? That is a problem. The other one, of course, is our review. Our reviewers can be a bit slow. That we can try and encourage and send them reminders. But the fact that our accepted papers are not put online immediately is a deterrent. People say, yeah, my paper has been accepted, but there's no evidence. So we came up with this idea that we only put the title and the authors of the accepted papers, but there's no abstract, there's no full text. And if you look at our competitors, they all put the full text immediately, as I mentioned to you, within a week of acceptance. So that is something we have to achieve and implement.
maybe by putting just the abstract immediately, just motivating more people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I would go so far as to recommend full text immediately. That's what most major journals do. Even to tell you the truth, even the abstract is not there now. And these few days, the whole journal web page has disappeared. So this is bad publicity for us. Unless these things are sorted out, our submission rate cannot increase. Thank you for that very frank comment. That's the one I agree with. Yes.
My question is, what are you doing in order to encourage the supervisors to motivate the supervisors to encourage their students in order to publish in Britannica? Because based on the supervisors' KPI, they keep more stress on the students to publish like in Q1 and Q2 journals, not even Q4. So I don't know in this case, the benefit, is it for the supervisor or for the student? Because we the students, we are struggling to get the requirement for graduation. And Britannica is also recognized because it is UPM journal. So we get more headache we write papers and they get rejected in Q1. So it's really a burden on the students. So I don't know in this case what the university is trying to do in order to motivate the supervisors, because it's not your own decision as a student, because you are working under the supervisory committee. So we never knew even about their existence much of Britannica. We know it is in UPM, but it's not in, as far as we're concerned, it's not in the list for we to get published. So the student at the end of the day, we suffer, we try and write papers, they get rejected. While we are, our aim is to have requirement for graduation. So I don't know what the university is doing at this point in order to motivate the supervisors.
That's a question which I've been expecting and looking for. Now, in truth, Dr. Imad, who wanted to publish in Q1, Q2, it's out of his own initiative. I did tell him it might delay your graduation, because I know it will happen, and it happens. But since he's fully prepared for that, it's fine. But for others, well, it's a contradiction between the supervisor's KPI and your KPI. How to solve that? I cannot. I'm not the vice chancellor. I'm just a journal editor. Of course, I said please publish it to the journal because I'm the chief editor of one of them. But that is a university policy. To me, publication for you guys is essential, otherwise you cannot graduate. And Britannica is here to serve you, to help you. And USM and UKM, they recognize the same journal, they give incentive to the corresponding authors if they publish in their own Science Malaysiana, and that's why the Science Malaysiana is going up. Britannica journals, I think I have to ask the person who sets the KPI to answer the question. I cannot answer.
Thank you. The moment I listen to the question, I know I have to answer this. In fact, during the presentation of Prof. Tan just now, so I thought, okay, there's lots of things I need to clarify. And in fact, if I remember correctly during my speech just now, I started my speech with KPIs and publication and why we have to go away from KPI. And to tell you that we are going to organize a workshop among the deans and the director and trying we call this workshop to strategize how to go about this, Q1 and Q2 requirements. And one of the agenda inside that perhaps to relook at the KPIs that we have set. Because there's a thing, isn't it? We always look at something on its surface and not try to understand what's behind. When we talk about Q1 and Q2 journals, the more important is that we are trying to address quality publication. It's not about Q1 and Q2. Botanica is at the moment, it's not in Q1 and Q2, and I'm hoping one day it will. Okay, but at the moment, we actually recognize Botanica at the same standard as Q1 and Q2. Okay? Except that perhaps in terms of the staff assessment, for example, it has not been translated. This is what I mentioned just now. Okay, the deans and the director are going to have a workshop and try to relook at this. Okay, try to relook at this so that we could actually translate. Okay, that the management actually believe journals published by the university, not only Botanica but other universities in Malaysia, we should actually recognize them. Okay. But at the same time also, we don't want you stop trying to publish in different quality journal, in other quality journal. Okay? That's the thing, isn't it? Because we always take everything on the surface. Okay. So later maybe when we announce, okay, all journals published by the university in Malaysia is at the same level as in Q1 and Q2. What happened? You know what happened, isn't it? Everybody will try to publish that and stop trying in the other journal. That's what we don't want. Okay, that's why we have to find the right message. And the right message here is quality publication. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, just let me share with you a little bit about this Q. Some of the journals are Q1 in one field and Q4 in another field, even within the Thomson IC system. Uphytica, Q1 under horticulture and agriculture, Q3 under plant sciences and technology. So, which one do you choose? If you are in an agriculture university, of course you say you must recognize it as Q1 because it's in horticulture and agriculture is Q1. But if you are in a, let's say, molecular biology-based university, then you recognize it as Q3 because for plant biotech or plant biochemistry is Q3. So again, the same journal under the same ISI Thomson stable of journals. So what do you do in such situation? So that is a question I pose to Dr. Andrew. Unfortunately, you're the KPI center here. You're the only one here. But it's food for thought for you. Any more questions? Well, Dr. Amirus is here, so that he can answer questions.
Any last question, please? Audience?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I have two questions. The first question is, in the course of your presentation, you mentioned that it's always good or necessary to request permission of co-authors before you add them, as the co-authors. So my question here is, what happens to, for example, your supervisory committee? Because it seems to be like a default. Whenever you write an article, you include the names of all your supervisory committees. So my question is, is it highly recommended that you seek individual permission of the supervisory committee members before you add their names as co-authors? And the second question is, is there any hints, for your article to get accepted in either Q1 journal, in addition to what was mentioned at the beginning of this workshop by one of the participants, that probably he was able to get his article accepted by the issue of originality, novelty, and clear writing. So are there some additional hints? Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very much for those questions. Now, as a student, PhD student, it is only logical and ethical and courteous to include all members of your supervisory committee in your papers, because for better or for worse, we guided you. However, having said that, it is essential that when you draft the manuscript, you give that manuscript to every person whose name is mentioned as a co-author, for that person to then decide whether they actually want to be a co-author or not in the book. One of your co-supervisors may not be in the specific area of the paper that you have produced, and he or she may not understand that area. Like I know genetics, but I have been on the supervisory committee of people who do other things besides genetics in their PhD work. For example, in agriculture, they may be looking at the effects of climate change on agriculture and so on. I can only advise a person on the molecular marker part of it. So papers on molecular markers, of course, my name should be there, and I'll be happy to be there. But if that person writes on the climate change aspect of it, I may not know anything about it, and may not be able to assess the paper. So I may say, okay, on paper on climate change, the draft comes to me with my name on it. I read through it, I cannot understand it. Or like Dr. Amirus, I don't have time to look at it. And I said, please delete my name from that list. That is what I mean. That is what I mean. You put a name, you give it to them, then they decide whether they want to be on that paper or not. And Dr. Amirus, I have also declined authorship in some cases where I don't really understand what the subject of that paper is. I'm no expert in everything. Now, the other thing that was asked about is besides it, how do you get a paper in the Q1 journal? The most important issue is it the right journal for your paper? We all know Science and Nature, impact factor 30. We all want to publish that. But it's the work that you're doing. Is it acceptable to Science and Nature? They go for blue skies research, Science and Nature. Blue skies research with absolutely no practical application. Those are the sort of papers that Science and Nature do. In Malaysia, if you come up with a research proposal on such a topic, you will not get any funding from the Ministry of Higher Education, now Ministry of Education or higher, and MOSTI and so on. The reviewers comment will say, no economic value at all, reject. So, if your paper is on applied science, no way you're going to get into science and nature. My ex-student, Dr. Rajendra Singh, only got his paper into Nature when he worked on sequencing the all-palm genome. And even then, it was just a letter. Whereas all his other works that he did with us on QTLs and oil quality and so on were not accepted by science had he tried it. He didn't try, of course. But we know for a fact that science and nature won't accept those sort of practical type of work. But all-palm genome sequencing, yes, you understand. So choice of journal is absolutely critical. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. And you send a applied sort of work on to science or to nature, definitely it will be rejected. No need to review. So the other thing is we have big problem now is the quality of the English language. If your English language is not up to par, please send it for professional English language editing before you submit it to the journal. If you submit your version directly to the journal, you are wasting the journal's time and your own time because automatically it will be rejected. Our message now to the editorial staff in the office is, if you cannot understand the abstract, please reject the paper straight away instead of wasting the viewer's time. Of course, the second thing is originality check. If you haven't done originality check yourself and you find that your paper has got let's say similarity index of about 60%, then automatically it will be rejected. I think Botanica we go for 20%. 30%. And graduate school, I think it's 30%. Right. So make sure this criteria are met, otherwise you're just wasting your time. So language, choice of journal, and originality checking. Alright? Right, thank you very much.
I mean, because being a person who set those KPI, I feel guilty. Because I'm perhaps the person who, you know, the source of all this wrongdoing. Because, yeah, they create all this wrongdoing. I mean, I didn't mean that. I mean, I always thought of benchmarking ourselves with other universities. As I mentioned just now, how come, okay, the National University of Singapore, for example, that, I mean, established about the same time as us, maybe earlier, a bit earlier than, they are a bit earlier than us, but just about the same time. Having a multidisciplinary similar to us, but can maintain about 90% of Q1 and Q2, 70% in Q1. Different areas, okay? I mean, all different areas included. That's wonderful. And that's what we are trying to have at the university. But not to the extent that you simply just look at the list of the dissertation report, find any of the paper, and try to sell. Okay, that's not my message. Okay, that's not what we are trying, I mean, asking you to do. Please don't do that. Because you are the one who knows which journal is which one is good, which one is bad. As Prof mentioned just now, he had actually been using the genetics journal all this while. I mean, even though the impact factor is 1, but to tell you, Prof, in my field, 1 is the highest impact factor. Okay, 1 is the highest. So it's not the impact factor, it's not the Q1, Q2, it's the quality of the journal, and you know better. And that's why, if otherwise, last 2 years, we had an issue where suddenly at RMC there is an influx application to submit to Wilfinia. Okay, suddenly, and of course, at RMC we have a system. Okay, if something that is actually out of norm, it triggers us. So we check what happened. Why are all the postgraduate students suddenly submit to this Wilfinia? Is it good journal or is it not? So when we check, actually it is a fake journal. Okay, it just hijacked the name of the Virginia journal that exists, that actually published by the museum in Austria. Okay, and they opened this website, use the same name, use the same impact factor that exists in the journal citation report, but they are actually totally a different journal. So, I mean, if I think, then it's better than to publish in some other journals that actually real, because this one is fake, and I mean your journal is not even exist actually. Okay, it's only exists in that website, and the fact that we have to pay a hefty price. Okay, so that's why I said, okay, you in your field, you know which journal. You I mean, from your reading and everything, you know which journal that actually you've been using. So try to publish to those two journals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Tan Guan. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Hamidus Marhaban to present a token of appreciation to our speaker, Professor Dr. Tan Guan.